Hello there, and welcome again to our second edition of the ESAC podcast, hosted by myself, Scotsman. Today we are going to be doing a LAN event preview of 2019. I'm joined by some familiar faces, and I'm also joined by some new faces. Some are established, some you may only know as players. Of course, we have the community figures themselves here, but I will let them introduce themselves. I won't get too far ahead of myself. NMD, tell them who you are.
Well, for the second time in a row, I'm actually a guest on a podcast, so I appreciate that. And I kind of appreciate you having the balls of picking me over your own leader for being the guest for a second week in a row. For people who might not know me, I guess I am sort of a guy who does many things in Trackmania, mostly trying to bring attention and coverage to the game with podcast interviews, video series, and so on, but also the admin and founder of the event organization Huntmania.
Thank you very much for that. And of course, we might be missing Nevermind here. We're certainly making up for it, at least in good looks. We have Zad here. How about you introduce yourself to us?
Hello guys. So I've been playing Trackmania for like 10 years now. I've been starting in around 2010. I've been playing a lot in tech, obviously, in different teams such as Führer and TMNF, and obviously eCorp. That's the last big team. And now I'm the captain for UB team, a new promising team, I guess, with good players. So yeah, I hope it's enough.
A nice one. We managed to rope in the captain here. I feel like our podcast is going to go a lot better now. But so, as again, what we'll be doing for our second episode of 2019, it will be a LAN event preview for those, of course, who are planning on going to the events, for those who are just planning on watching said events. We will be running through what to expect, but first of all, we'll give things a little bit of a rewind here. We'll look back on 2018, see if we can draw anything from what happened last year. So I'll give you guys a little run through of the LAN events we had last year, the kind of prizes of which we got from them, so that we can look at that as to how it compares to this year. So last year, we, of course, had Gaming Winterfest that had €1,000 on offer. We had Gamers Assembly, 3,500 on offer. We had then, I believe, the next one was the Zerator Cup, which had €2,018 on offer. We had the Spheres Cup, €1,000. We had Giants Cup, €3,000. And last but certainly not least, we had TMWC at €5,000. So our first question of this podcast I'll level at you, NMD. Just looking at this on the base of the figures, could we say that 2018 was a successful year for Trackmania?
Just looking at the numbers, I think you can actually make the case that this was maybe one of the most important years overall for Trackmania, if not the most important year overall. I'm currently working on a list with all the sort of prize pools for each and every year. And if we look before 2018, the year was 2017, and that year was actually the second lowest overall in terms of prize money. And then 2018 comes around and it's placing around number 7 with like €14,000 more than 2017. So if you don't make the case that 2018 is a success, then I don't know what you're basing it on. Because if you compare it to 2017, 2016, it's pretty much set in stone that it was a successful year. And if you look outside of just the amount of prize money, you can also look at the sheer amount of events. It's the year with the most amount of events registered to esport earnings. You had Giant Cup coming back, and then of course the most important event of them all, you had finally a place to officially crown a world champion again in Trackmania and being back at the Paris Games Week, getting the support now by Ubisoft. So in my eyes, 2018 is a successful year, and once again I will make the case that probably one of the most important years overall in Trackmania's history.
Yeah, I think one of the most important years is a very kind of important statement to be taken into account in this, of course. Well, the figures may not have stacked up on the years gone past. Of course, it's kind of poor to do an unfair comparison, so to speak. But Zad, to get it started off with yourself, just basically before we actually kind of go on in depth into what events we are to expect, are you looking forward to Trackmania in 2019?
Yeah, obviously. I think we have seen a decrease of the cash prize. Like if you compare 2007, 2008 with 2016 and nowadays, it's way less now. But we have seen like the previous year have been better and better. So we are obviously looking for the next year, and obviously, as you said, the number of events are growing. So I think it's better for the community and for the game.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
yeah, and the events are more and more open to new players. So I guess we are going to see a good tournaments with a lot of players. That's something we missed. So I think we are going to the right way.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like you said there, again, I think it's pretty important to take into account when we are looking at comparisons to the years gone past, as not necessarily, looking at 2018 and saying, was it as good as 2006? As in, maybe look at it as in, was it better than the years previous? And
Yeah.
kind of hope to look forward on that and hope to see that 2019 carries on the same trend. But to get us started off with 2019, our first event is actually 2 weeks from now. Our first event will be held in Melun. Will be Gaming Winterfest. That will be on March 2nd and 3rd. That will be a tech-only event, but we actually have seen a small prize pool increase for 1,500. But the first question I'll, in regards to Gaming Winterfest, I'll level at you, Zad. Of course, you've been to quite a few LAN events yourself. Do you believe with the prize pool increasing that we're going to see maybe a higher level of competition or more players coming out?
Yeah, actually, the level is already pretty high. We have seen a lot of venture players, a lot of I think Kronos went there. I think Symbios as well. Like the LAN event, the level is already pretty good. Obviously, there are more players that could come, but I think why players are not coming yet is just because the previous year have been there are some issues with connection. There is a lot of delay, so we are waiting for the LAN to be a bit more stable, I guess, before we actually go there and spend a lot of weekend there. Actually, I think it's only 2 days. I don't know. I think it's 2 days, but
Mm-hmm.
we are not ready yet to go there. Actually, I think in UB team, no one is going to GWF because it's far, or it's just like we have to take a free day if we want to go. So, but yeah, I think in the near future, in the next few years, I think the LAN will grow up pretty quickly, and actually, I think it will actually compete with Gamers Assembly soon.
Well, we can certainly hope that there's going to be a kind of wealth in competition in the LAN events. I mean, Gaming Winterfest, of course, being one of the newer LAN events coming about in France, kind of trying to challenge the more established ones in the likes of Gamers Assembly. But NMD, do you believe that with Gaming Winterfest, the issues in their previous LANs has hurt their reputation and affected such attendance levels going forward?
Yeah, 100%. If you make the case for anything else, I believe, I don't know why you're doing it. For yourself or for anybody who's traveled far, why should you pick Gaming Winterfest over Gamers Assembly if you can pick one event? Would you go to an event that last year was more or less remembered for having the delays instead of having, let's say, Massa winning it and Team Expert taking top 3 and then being their final event? People look back at Gaming Winterfest now as an event with problems. The first year we couldn't watch the maps or the matches live. We had to wait for, I guess, only grand final and maybe consolidation final was showcased live. There have always been some problems. Hopefully, I guess this is maybe the last chance they have in the community. But the good thing for Gaming Winterfest as an event itself is that they probably benefit for Trackmania having less events because we are so desperate at going to events. So even though there are problems, people will attend. Organizations want players to be there. Like Sampi wants Tween there, Berlin International Gaming wants Massa there, and so on and so on. So yeah, it probably hurts some people who are only attending to one event, but again, people are sort of desperate for Trackmania events and probably will end up attending if they have the possibility.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it has kind of hurt their reputation over the past 2 editions just with the amount of issues that they had. And this exactly as you said there, the storylines were of the problems that were being had. It wasn't exactly as you were saying, the storylines weren't the the good parts of the events, the good matches, as of course people had issues actually seeing the matches. I mean, I wouldn't even go into my issues of actually getting to the event. That's not even worth going on to now. I'll start bursting into tears and breaking things. So it's probably we move swiftly on to our next event of the calendar, which taking a bit of a kind of swing up here as to at least performance-wise last year, or at least how people had the experience of it last year, as Gamers Assembly. At least of the events of which we know properly a lot of information about. We have Gamers Assembly taking place in Poitiers. Apologies to any French people if I've absolutely butchered the name of that.
Yeah, that was pretty nice.
Oh, thank you. I'm
Yeah, that was
brushing up
quite
on
nice,
my French
impressive.
here.
Yeah.
Well, what am I here for if not to impress you guys? Anyway, that will be held in April 20th until 21st. That will be actually on that will have multi-environments being represented in the same tournaments. Of course, whereas Gaming Winterfest was only tech, this and Gamers Assembly will have tech, full speed, dirt, and canyon. So, of course, nearly all the main disciplines of Trackmania being taken into account. Of course, slots available for all tournaments, and as I said, prizes being offered. Now, NMD, just simply when we look at Gamers Assembly, with the bigger prize pool that's on offer, of course, for the actual Trackmania Stadium itself, and as well the other prizes on offer for the different environments. Would you say, in your opinion, this would be more of a spectacle than, say, a tech-only event?
I guess sort of, yeah, because now people can go there, they can watch more events, and probably some people who can only pick one tech event would pick Gamers Assembly then again, but not only in terms of the prize money, because now they can also go to the event and probably meet some friends they have who plays full speed, plays dirt, and plays canyon. And I believe outside of, let's say, the top tier players who can actually win the title, the motivation for going to LAN events is more or less to meet people rather than to just play the game itself. So having the experience, and that's a good part about Gamers Assembly, I believe. It sort of include all the community together, because Trackmania is not only about tech, it's other styles as well. And I guess Gamers Assembly is the best event to showcase that.
Yeah, exactly. It's important to show that Trackmania isn't just tech, which, of course, we do have multiple other disciplines that people can play, people can enjoy watching, and people can also come and participate in, which I think is a very good point. Now, Zad, if we focus on the stadium tournament for here, since it is arguably the biggest spectacle out of those and the Gamers Assembly environments, when we look at that, of course, the prize pool this year, there'll be a difference between Gaming Winterfest of only 700. Of course, Gaming Winterfest has 1,500 on offer, and Gamers Assembly has 2,200. Do you think simply due to that we might see either some bigger names coming out that maybe aren't going to be interested in GWF, or do you think it doesn't come down to that for the players at the top? It's just simply winning a title for them.
Yeah, but I guess the big names are already supposed to come. Like they are already planning to come to GA. I don't know if other players. I think there's a lot of players that we don't see often in LAN. I see German players, a few German players that could come, but we have never seen them in LAN. And I think GA might be a bit further, but because of this, it might help them to make a choice.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, GA is, for me, for a lot of French players, is the biggest tournament of the year. It's the tournament where we're gonna meet everybody. Because there's, I guess, 64 slots for the TM Stadium, the tech tournament. So we are obviously going to meet a lot of people we know, and obviously it's like the tournament where we all want to perform and to do well. So
yeah, would you kind of link it into NMD's statement here, as in, well, what he was saying about, do you think with the Gamers Assembly as a whole, with it being an older event as well, of course, it's had its history, it's had Trackmania for a great number of years. You're saying it's the biggest event for players like yourself. Is that more as in the kind of prestige that comes along with it? Because Game Assembly, as I said, has been a longer running event. There's always been a high caliber of player coming out at that.
Yeah.
Or would you say it's the biggest event for you because of what you were saying, that you enjoy the fact that you know you're going to meet a lot of people there from different parts that you wouldn't have already?
Yeah, actually both, because obviously we are going to meet our other friends, and obviously the tournament is like, we know before going that it's gonna be good. We know that the delay is not gonna be there. Like, we don't gonna have delay. They have proved that they can run a tournament perfectly. I think the last 2 years there were absolutely no delay. Everything went as supposed to, and yeah, we know that it's gonna be good. We are gonna get close match. I think GWF. I don't know how many spots are available, but we with not that much like really good players. We know that we're gonna have like a few games that are gonna be easy, and then we are gonna get crushed because we are directly going to play against the best. So
Yeah, just a kind of difference in skill.
yeah, I think the GWF, the gap between the skill is way bigger than the GA, where it's a lot more packed. So yeah, the GA matches are really close, and that's why we are really enjoying this kind of events.
Now, just if I apologise for leaving you out a little bit here, NMD, I'm sure you won't mind, but with what you were saying there about the kind of skill disparity when we are looking at events like that, I understand you were also quite well involved with the Giants Cup tournament. Of course, I understand primarily, of course, Mass and Omnipots were helping most with organisations, but of course, I remember that you were helping out a lot. Now, with the format that Giants Cup kind of introduced, it was a bit of a kind of new format we saw, with pros and casual players both having their separate kind of tournaments. Do you believe that's the way forward, or do you think the kind of Gamers Assembly kind of system is what's going to work? What at least is your preference on that?
In my opinion, I don't know if it's the way forward, but that's just a different way to make a tournament. I think Mass did a very good job organizing 2 different tournaments. It was in order to make the least good players, like not the best players, gonna play a lot more than at GA. They are going to play 1 match, go to loser bracket, and just be eliminated. In the tournament that he did, it was like, I don't remember well, but there were a lot of stages, so they could play like a full day. That's really what's interesting in this, and I don't know if it's a kind of format that we are going to see at GA. I don't think so, but that's definitely something we could actually think. And yeah, that was a really good format, and all the credits goes to Mass.
Oh, little shout out there for Mass. But yeah, with that event, NMD, it did give us a little bit of a shake up in what we expected for Trackmania Lands, as in normally it was just the established format. Now, I think we can agree it was a bit of a welcome change. How do you think it affected the? So, of course, in the inside of the event, it was allowing people the chance more to play, get a bit more experience just simply playing at a LAN event and things like that. How do you feel the impact was on the outside? As in, do you think it was a positive change so that the pro players were being segregated for the casual players? Or do you think that it should be more kind of bunched together, so to speak?
From my point of view, it seems like the casual events and those players who played there also ended up being somewhat competitive, since now they can play with their own sort of level and not having to play against Tween, who would probably wreck them 5 rounds out of 5. And it seems like those players had a lot of fun, and it also ended up being one of the most competitive events of the year, with, of course, Tween having one of the most impressive performances. So I guess it's a mix of both. I have to be honest, I was there as a sort of spectator and a sort of guy who interviewed, and I didn't watch the matches in the casual event itself, so I only had the impression of how they were cheering, how they were loud when they failed. So it seems like they also had fun, at least. And of course, I watched the top levels closely, and it seems like they also had fun. So I would welcome having this, separation between the casuals and the pros.
It's certainly an interesting idea. I guess it's just one of those ones that depends on what kind of players actually show up, kind of thing. As in, are you going to have casual players that are going to be able to compete at their own level. I understand previously, I mean, we could have had the problem, say, for example, someone messes up their qualification, they end up in the casual ranking, they do kind of just wreck house a little bit. So the format isn't without its issues, I feel personally, but I believe it does allow the chance for those who are a bit newer to LAN events. I mean, it can be pretty daunting when you are going into a LAN event for the first time. I mean, my first ever LAN match was against Onyo and Shelley, and you know that it's kind
I
of
remember this one, yeah.
yeah, it's kind of scary going into things like that, knowing you're probably going to get your ass handed to you, you know. So, and yeah, I won't talk about what happened in that match. That's kind of that's my Vietnam, shall we say? But again, that's further towards an argument for this, as in new players should be given the opportunity to compete at their own level, kind of thing. But we've kind of discussed the events of which we know 100%. We know a lot about. We know a lot about Gaming Winterfest. We know a lot about Gamers Assembly. But there's a few events which are kind of question marks on people's minds. There is the event, of course. There's the Catalan, which I'm not entirely sure how they particularly plan on pronouncing that, since it has extra letters in it and capitals and things, and it confuses me. We also we have the absence of information regarding Giants Cup, or as I've now seen the information of the Go 4, however that's going to be. And of course, there's the TMGL to take into account. But to give us a bit of an overview on the one we know the most about, we have the Catalan here, which will be on the 6th and 7th of April, and Perpignan, if that's again how it's
Perpignan, yeah, that's pretty close.
Perpignan. There we go.
Yeah.
I tried my hardest for you guys.
Yeah, that was not bad.
Thank you. I'm glad I've got quality assurance here in the Discord with me, so that's why we got you instead of never mind. But with this, it will be held in a kind of different location in France. If I'm correct in saying it's actually very much closer to the south of France, of course, hence the name Catalan, as it's close to the Spanish border. However, we don't actually know a lot of information about this. We know Trackmania has planned to be a part of it, but at least looking into this, can we know, I believe it's supposed to be on the Gamers Assembly map pack? I understand, NMD, you recently heard a bit more information about it?
Yeah, I actually got the official confirmations today about the event taking place and having €1,000. And then, as you said, being played on the Gamers Assembly map pack. That's kind of cool that you actually see it takes place on the map pack before actually Gamers Assembly, so you can have a sort of feeling if the best players attend there, who is looking best. But yeah, I also have some questions about the event. It's not really clear about who will attend, of course. It's maybe not the best period of if you just want to host a new event and it's already smaller than Gamer Winterfest and Gamers Assembly squeezed in between there. And then, of course, you have Grand League as well. But they are looking to be positive, and it's Draconia who's behind it, I believe. So I'm positive for now, but waiting for more information to give, let's say, my final prediction. But of course, it's always nice to see a new event in Trackmania.
Exactly. It's always nice to see a new event, although we might not be able to kind of predict what we'll see from it and things like that. But definitely, it's refreshing to see a new face on the block, so to speak. We can only kind of hope the best for that. But Zad, to bring you into this, with what NMD was saying there regarding the actual scheduling of things, I mean, I have my kind of own part in this, since it's more difficult for me to get to events, being of course not part of mainland Europe, but being, you know, from France, of course, and with it being the travel and things like that isn't as much of an issue. I'll hesitate in saying it's not an issue, of course, but do you think with all of the LAN events going and being bunched together, what does that say to you? Does that concern you, as in you're thinking, oh, I can only go to one event, or what are your impressions on seeing this all close together?
Actually, I think I will always go to Gamers Assembly since it's the biggest one every year. But if there is new events, especially near my city, I guess Catalan is not that far away. It might be 100 kilometers. If it's not that bad and not that far, I will for sure go there and see how it goes. But yeah, a problem is that I think every LAN event is in French in France. It's not a problem for us, but for a lot of other players, it might be a problem. And yeah, unfortunately, we don't see enough tournaments around Europe. So I understand that for you, it might be a bit more complicated to come, but Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't know if there is in the future, if there is gonna be like other tournaments that gonna host in different countries.
Mm-hmm. It's
So
an interesting point. What you're saying there with all the events having kind of been in France, it's definitely another issue to kind of take into account on this. But just further with what you're saying there, do you think it is just going to come down to, as an attendance wise, it's just going to come down to people just saying basically, instead of, say, saving up a lot of money throughout the year and then saying, I'm saving up, I'm taking holidays off work, I'm going to go to these events, it's just going to come down to people saying, look, I'm either going to go to the Catalan, GWF, or GA. Is that the kind of impression you're getting from how this is all kind of bunched together?
I honestly don't know. I think it's like people might be interested into going to other events. I think people will always go to Gamers Assembly, but if there are other tournaments that show up and actually be really good, like really interesting, they might change their mind and say and think about going to other ones.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that was the question, but
Yeah. That's fine. It was, but going forward, I mean, with Catalan, I suppose it does have a nice thing that it does have that new event effect, as in it's nice, it's fresh. Hopefully, we can get a good impression off of it. But also that kind of comes with the problem of we don't know what to expect from it, in the sense
yeah,
of we might have trouble trusting it. We don't know who's behind it. Of course, now
yeah,
now we kind of have the name value of Draconia to lend to it. That's certainly we're
yeah,
getting a bit more information. It's reassuring and things like that. So I mean, good vibes at least coming from it to start off with. However, I'm concerned at the very least for the time scale of it, because I mean, even for people part of mainland Europe or even France, it is a bit of a nightmare to plan 3 weekends off within the
yeah,
space of a month and a half. I mean, for myself as well, I need to plan flights, I need to plan how to get to these cities. That's going to count in accommodation. It can particularly be a bit of a nightmare for people who are out with kind of driving distance, or just kind of public transport, or at least a long train or something like that. So it's definitely something to take into account. I mean, I understand events can't really be flexible. It's not as if we're just going to say, oh yeah, let's just delay this by 2 months because there's some competition kind of thing. But I guess it's maybe something to take into account for these sort of events going forward, because I mean, naturally, of course, these events are in competition with each other, being esport events, of course. But to move on to kind of what you can expect going forward as well, and a kind of as a preview, of course, we do have other potential events, but these ones are a little less clear. Now, previously, we did have the Giants Cup, which was hosted at the end of the year. That was hosted, of course, as I said, by Massine. Omnipots being the main staff members, of course, under the name of eCorp, if I remember correctly,
yeah.
in regards to how that worked. But I understand now that eCorp are no longer sponsoring the Trackmania team. That's kind of raised questions on what's due to happen now going forward. Now, Zad, I understand you were, of course, part of the eCorp organisation, and you were, at least in a case, I remember you were running about helping a lot of people
Yeah,
at Giants
yeah.
Cup. Is there anything of at all we can go on going forward, or is it just simply Giants Cup killed in the water and we're moving on to new project?
Well, I guess the fact that we went out of ECOP changed a lot of mass plans, but as far as I know, I think there's more to expect. There's a lot of expect to from mass. He's not out of ideas, and he's planning a lot of not a lot of events, but at least a few events in the future. So it's definitely not going to. He's definitely not going to let the community down and stop everything he has done so far.
Uh-huh. I mean, I suppose we can never look upon the Giants Cup, and certainly the kind of, even, well, not necessarily the legacy, but the how smoothly that event was run and how well it was pulled off. I don't think
Yeah,
in any way we could look upon Mass as anything but a standout in that regard. That he's certainly they pulled off a fantastic event, in my opinion, and all kudos to those guys. We're certainly grateful for any effort they've been putting in, and very interested to see what ideas they have going forward. As you say, going forward. If we kind of skip past that, as I understand, there's not a lot of information in regards to what Messina and such are planning going forward. We then find ourselves at the TMGL question. Now, it was recently announced, just actually earlier on today, we're of course doing this straight after the third stage, if I'm correct in saying, and the Trackmania Grand League. I'm glad I said that right and didn't embarrass myself. But we found out the cash prize in total was 15,000 for that, and that is for the beta season. So to give you guys an idea how that's going to work, I understand it's not confirmed if it's a LAN event, but I'll educate you guys just simply because I'm a nice host. So we will have 8th place getting 500, 7th place getting 600, 6th place getting 700, 5th place getting 800, 4th place getting 900, 3rd place getting 1,500, 2nd getting 2,000, 1st place getting 1,000, as well as €100 for winning a single map. So, of course, that's 5 maps per match. And, of course, over 10 stages, that's an extra 5,000 in total to be going towards this. Now, with that, NMD, when we just simply look at the kind of grand scale of the events, of what kind of Nadeo are putting into this along with Ubisoft, do you think we can expect to see a LAN event at the end of it?
Certainly that seems to be the plan, that there is a playoffs and then there are going to be like a LAN event. But this, just to make it clear, I spoke to Softy just to make it clear, and this prize pool is simply just for the stage, so only online. After 10 stages, the winner will get 3,000 and so on. So there's probably going to be a potential more or bigger prize pool for, let's say, in playoffs at a LAN event. So I guess that's answer the questions, that hopefully there will be a playoffs. And you know me, I have this dream or hope that we will see a playoffs the day before this Raider Cup. So we have a Trackmania weekend with a bunch of fans watching what Trackmania can be, more of the esports side of it, and then more of the show in this Raider Cup.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, showing off both the casual and the kind of pro scene, but in a tournament with a lot of exposure, of course, and gaining a lot of eyes, at least to both sides, and kind of, well, I won't really say a similar map style, but at least a map style that might be more recognisable to people from the outside who simply view Zerator. So, yeah, I mean, I suppose the Grand League is kind of a good introduction to that for them. But at least looking into this, Sad, I mean, the kind of crazy statistic about this has been, as just simply when you look at the 15,000 as in the total cash prize, would you have preferred to see that kind of support being a bit more spread out towards all of the LAN events? So as we understand, Nadeo support, the LAN event prizes which go into all the tournaments. So would you have preferred to see that being spread out between all the LAN events that they kind of sponsor, so to speak, throughout the year? Or are you of the impression that they should, give enough for it to be, worth going to, but have a main spectacle which you put a lot of your resources in? What do you think about
that? I think if they can provide this kind of amounts every tournament, that would be perfect. But I guess it's kind of limited. We got pretty surprised when they announced the cash prize. To be honest, we were not expecting such a big amount of money given to an event that is in a beta version. I don't know how to say it, but like a trial, and we got pretty surprised. Since this is like the first edition, we can expect something going bigger and bigger. That's going to be hard, but that's obviously what we hope for. I don't know if they are planning to do some other events in throughout the years, but I think that's a good start, obviously. Then we have, I think you have already done a podcast about the TMGL, so I'm not going to add anything to the, but yeah, we got surprised. But if they can do this a few times during the year, that would be a really nice thing for the community and for the game.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I suppose that the main kind of talking point, at least recently, of course, has been the amount of resources that Nadeo are kind of putting into this, and what's the kind of payoff for it. As in, now, of course, we know the cash prize is what the end goal is for the players, but what's the end goal then for Nadeo? Are they planning on hosting a big LAN event, with a lot of exposure to it? That's I guess a kind of good question on people's lips. And now that we know the beta cash prize, I can only assume that they plan on at least matching or increasing that when it comes to a LAN event. So that'll be one of at least the kind of highest profile LAN events we might have, despite the kind of pros and cons we have regarding TMGL, which we did go over on our last episode, guys. So feel free to check that out on the YouTube channel if you want our impressions on that. But to go on to the actual kind of LAN event experience and what this means for players going to the LAN events, I feel it's only fair to talk about that when we are talking about previews, because I understand people may watch this who haven't been to events, who maybe plan on going to events, or just simply want to know what it's like on the inside. I mean, at least I've met both NMD and Zad. Of course, I had great times with them at the events of which I've attended. There's certain things, of course, that will stay at those events. Shall we just say, for the purposes of this podcast, so we don't get Twitch banned? But moving into, as I said, the LAN experience. So with Gaming Winterfest, I'll kind of give you guys an overview of what the events were like, at least from my perspective, in terms of what you can expect just simply from the locations. So Gaming Winterfest located pretty much just kind of on the outskirts, I believe, a suburb of Paris, Melun is, correct me if I'm wrong. That was in a relatively kind of smaller, kind of like if you think a gymnasium, so to speak, like that kind of area, so to speak, just kind of wide open space, not really that much of a stage, but of course, a lot of computers set up and things like that. Gamers Assembly, completely different. That was located in Poitiers, which is, I guess, kind of a little bit of a kind of isolated town, so to speak, in France, kind of out there in the middle of kind of their own little location. But that's in the Grand Poitiers, I believe the location is called, which is a massive kind of complex fit for, thousands of computers. There's thousands of people there. There's a lot of different games, whereas of course Gaming Winterfest was rather more limited. Whereas the other event, which I would draw comparison to, at least had more public access, was Giants Cup, in the sense that was hosted. Zad, was it in a school, if I remember correctly?
Yeah, it was a school, programming school, I guess. The problem was it was like in the middle of the city, so it was pretty hard to get into it. So yeah, it was hard to find parking slots and stuff like this, but I guess it was okay.
Yeah, well, I guess at least as the nature of it being in a city, it was easy to get to point A to B without a car, in a sense, as long as you kind of knew where you were going, I suppose. But at least for that, it was only Trackmania which was being showcased and played in that event. A lot of computers in the programming, a lot of areas of which the players could relax and talk to each other, and a kind of auditorium for the final event with the players sitting separately. Now, I'll kind of ask the both of you this, because I understand the both of you had a different experience of it. Of course, myself as well. We all kind of had different roles in that. NMD, at least for your experiences in Giants Cup, and I suppose you could lend us a bit of a ear to your experience in Trackmania World Championship. What has your impression been on the atmosphere at these kind of events, and do you have a preference in the way things are organised like that?
Yeah, I can start off with the Giant Cup. The plan was there to just go there, interview people, put it up for people at home to actually see what the players feel before, after, during the event. And I had this plan of having S film it and then just uploading it. But that didn't work out, so I needed a room to actually film it, or a corner. I asked for anything, basically just a place I could sit. And I got a personal room, which I can have total silence and invite whoever I wanted, free access to the room as long as the event was live. So that made my experience pretty good, because now I can interview people when they had a break, and then I can go back after 5 minutes, and I had probably 20 interviews. The atmosphere itself, as we talked about earlier, we had the casual events and then the pro events. So during most of the weekend, it was a lot of people upstairs, a lot of noises, people screaming if they won, people yelling if they lost, and so on and so on. But then the grand final came around, or actually the consolidation final, I believe. Everybody was moved to the sort of viewing area downstairs. I believe you also was moved. But I was
Mhm.
left upstairs because I was allowed to film, cover what was happening there. And then I suddenly realized, okay, now there is actually something at stake. It was not fun anymore, or fun, quote unquote. Now it was serious. It was something to be won, and everybody was serious. We just heard sort of keyboard noises of Tween and Kappa and so on. So it was really special. And if we go to compare that grand final to the grand final at Paris Games Week, it's sort of black and white. Giant Cup, 100% silence. The World Championship, like, I don't know how many people, let's say 500 yelling for Carl Jr. instead of all the others, going crazy if he won a round, yelling French stuff and so on. So if I'm to pick what I personally like, if I am to go to an event just as a spectator, I would go there for the experience itself, feel the atmosphere, and that atmosphere is more when people actually yell at something, and that's why I want. If I am personally to pick only one event I could go to without having to think about giving coverage and so on, I would pick Cerisier Cup. It's simply the biggest. It's simply probably most noise, and people are probably most crazy.
Yeah, I mean it's a very good point as well that you raised with the Zerator Cup there. Since again, there's a lot of Zerator fans that are going there, which you might not typically have in attendance for the events themselves that are hosted by the tournament. But if I can check with you, Zad, in regards to, because of course I understand, of course I first met you at Gamers Assembly, so of course I know you've been there. You can't tell me otherwise. But with the differences between Gamers Assembly and your smaller events, I'm not entirely sure if you're correct if you attended Gaming Winterfest, but
yeah.
of course, if we just simply compare the scale of the event compared with Giants Cup and Gamers Assembly, with of course Giants Cup, you'll have maybe a few people around you, maybe a few people behind you, and then the rest of it will just be people playing, depending on what stage of the tournament you're at. Compared to having Gamers Assembly, where there's about, say, close to or maybe more than 1,000 people in one room, all playing their own game, playing their own competitions and things like that. A lot of people are watching different games, watching different people. What is your preference when you're maybe attending and playing such events?
Well, actually, Gamers Assembly biggest problem is that it's pretty loud because there's a lot of players, there's a lot of people everywhere playing different games, as you said. So you have the environment is pretty nice because
Mhm.
everybody you meet is a huge fan of video games, and that's what every one of us is. And yeah, but the problem we had with Giant Cup is that we wanted to move the players downstairs with all the people. We wanted to make the atmosphere for the players as well, that they can feel the support and stuff like this. But at the last moment, we could not do it, unfortunately. So I can understand that it was a bit strange that the players were isolated. But yeah, I think that was the best decision to take. And yeah, but for players, I think we like when there is a lot of players like watching you play, when there's a lot of people like cheering for you. So I haven't been to Zerator Cup, unfortunately, and I think that's amazing to watch and to experience. But I don't know. I think Giant Cup for me is like the Gamers Assembly is the biggest tournament, the best tournament to participate, to register in, and because of the atmosphere that everybody is having the same passion. I don't know how to say it in English. I think it's right.
Yeah,
But yeah,
yeah, yeah.
everybody is going for the same goal, and yeah, everybody is giving his best. I guess the level between the events are pretty similar. Uh, Gamers Assembly is pretty tough. A lot of players have been spending a lot of time practicing, and that's the same on every other tournament. But I think it's a bit more with the Gamers Assembly. We got surprised as well in the Giant Cup because it's a different format where you have to be safe to get the most amount of points, and we got surprised by how fast they were all going. So I didn't play, but I can assume that it was pretty tough to do well. And we have seen a lot of players getting eliminated really fast. And I'm not gonna mention the e-corp players.
Yeah,
But,
I'm certainly
yeah.
glad you didn't mention me in that either.
No,
I'll
you
hold my hands up to it. I get last in the pro tournament.
you did well. You did well at Gamers Assembly though, so it's okay.
Are you just saying that because we get the same position?
Yeah, exactly.
I see how it is. Well, I suppose we both done well at Gamers Assembly. We can own that, Zad. We earned that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
something I'd like to kind of raise as a question going forward to this, when we're talking about just LAN events in general, and the kind of comparison of when you're talking about the best players in Trackmania, you're always talking about the best players in offline events. You're talking about the people who won these world championships, who won Gamers Assembly and things like that. What would you, so NMD, at least I understand you've done a lot of research into a lot of the, especially the offline tournaments as part of the content on your channel. How would you kind of gauge the difference between online and offline competitions? Of course, I understand for the group stages there's a noticeable kind of, there's a noticeable lower quality in the matches and things like that. But when we're talking of semi-finals, grand finals, or playoff stages, shall we say, of that, between offline tournaments and online tournaments, how would you say they compare? And for any differences you see in them, why do you think there is there?
Yeah, okay. So I guess the main sort of difference you can see from offline to online is that offline is like 99% of the time, at least for now, solo events. And then online events, you have these team events going over a longer period and probably players focusing on that. Of course, you've seen a shift lately, or you did it last year with the Trackmania Pro League. So the questions on how to look at the level itself, I guess you just have to look at how was the matches in the Trackmania Pro League Season 3 and then how the matches was at the Trackmania World Championship. And I would probably assume that the times were a lot better in the World Championship because now the players have sort of a week and they have to focus that week and have to be really good instead of a longer period of time. But if you make the sort of the main motivation, I guess, is just the prize pool, and then you know that if I win this event, I'm gonna be remembered. If you ask people in the Trackmania who's following it, most of them know that Kappa is the world champion now, but probably maybe not as many know that, let's say, Pac won Season 2 of Trackmania Pro League and Carl Jr. won Season 1. It was basically the same event. It had the playoffs, it had the grand finals, and so on. So it seems like it's a trend, and that's probably due to the history of Trackmania that offline events is the most prestigious thing to win, and that's why people want to win it. So it's just a ball that is rolling, and when people train for it, other people want to train for it because they want to beat everybody when they're at the best. And so far, it's at the offline events. You can showcase that you are actually the best player.
For sure. I mean, Zad, being part of teams like ECOP, I mean, going further back, Führer and things like that, being pretty plugged in, I imagine, as well, to the kind of French scene in that regard, and playing notably in some team tournament finals, and attending a few LANs, do you notice a difference both in the way you prepare and your teammates prepare for online and offline events?
Well, it's really different. There's a huge difference between these two. I think online we don't spend that much time. Well, we spend a lot of time, but we don't spend as much time as if it was like a game as Assembly training or something like that. But there's not, the difference is that you don't train the same way, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you train for the game assembly, there's the difference between is that you have the cars on. I guess that's the main difference. I guess
Mm-hmm.
when you're training game assembly, you are training with cars on, and that's changes everything. I don't know, you're way more focused. You are trying to be as good as you can, but for offline events, in my case, actually, it's like you're just training to get good and just good enough to be performing good. I don't know. I don't think the difference is that huge. but there's surely a bit of gap between those two.
Yeah. I mean, for those who don't know, of course, in terms of how our LAN event formats work for these sort of events, of course, contrary to what we've seen in the TMGL, the kind of established format is basically a cup mode. So to explain that for those who have not kind of seen it before, there is 100 not typically 120 points, which we use for the purpose of our example. There'll be 4 players on the track, and the points are typically something along the line of, say, 10 for first, 6 for second, 4 for third, and 3 for fourth, or something to that effect. And say they run 4 rounds on a 5 map pack, so 4 rounds each map. And once it's finished that cycle, it will keep going until you've reached 120 points. And then following that, it'll activate what's called a finalist mode. So when you have a finalist mode, you need to win a round to solidify your position. So often we see kind of exciting moments when, say, there's 3 finalists at one time and still first place is up for grabs, or say first place has already been taken and there's 3 finalists left to decide who gets the second position, as normally it's 2 go through and 2 go out, of course, virtue of the 4 players being in the match. And of course, being it on rounds, everyone starts at the same time, and it just depends on how fast you can finish. However, exactly as Ad was alluding to there, a difference between what you can do online and what you can do offline. Online, if you're getting distracted, you can simply turn the cars off, you can turn the HUD off, and things like that. You can put some music on, you can kind of zone in, things like this. However, at LAN events, you need to worry about the fact that you have to have it enabled. It is forced on, where you see every other car around you. So of course that's not only distracting, but it's a mental thing to take into account, as in you're seeing if you're getting beaten, you're seeing if it's a close fight, you're seeing if you're far ahead, and that all kind of plays a kind of mental factor. I mean, for those who maybe haven't attended LAN events, and especially if haven't attended solo tournaments, it might not be something that's as easy to understand without actually participating in it. But at least, so if I ask you this, if we have just this event, so say we take completely out of account, all of the other factors apart from the fact so online compared to offline, as it's the same prize pool. Whereas online, of course, you're in the comfort of your home. You can put your music on. As I said, you can zone in. You can turn cars off. How do you feel that compares to, again, offline, where you need to have cars on, where you have people around you who are getting angry, who are getting hyped up, shouting, things like that? Do you feel it's easier to thrive under that kind of pressure, or do you feel that's the kind of pressure which more often than not causes people trouble?
Well, I think I have more pressure when I'm online. That could seem surprising, but especially in team tournaments, I always have a lot of pressure because I don't want to be bad with my team.
Mm-hmm.
Offline events are special because, as you said, you have to have cars on, and that's not really easy when you start playing with cars on. Like most of the guys play with cars off when they are playing online, and when they arrive in LAN events, they are losing their focus because of the ghosts. So it's definitely something that you have to train for. But when you are used to it, I think it's not that hard to be good with such conditions. But yeah, I think LAN events are really nice because of this. When you have the cars on and when you have the finalist mode, I know it can be a bit like finalist mode has been not everybody is agreed on this. Like some people think it's not a good idea, some people think it's a really good idea. Now we have tried the Giant Cup without. That was good, I guess. I haven't played this, but I think it was pretty okay. And but finalist mode is always giving a lot of pressure and a lot of surprise. We have seen a lot of good moments with this formats, and I don't know if it's good or bad, but
Yeah, I mean, with the finalist mode, we've definitely had some hairies and scaries moments over the years. That's for sure. I mean, I can attest to watching them and both being a part of them. That's for sure. But NMD, when you look at the kind of adjustment that you need to make for your kind of typical offline events, so as again that you're having to train with cars on, you're kind of changing more into the solo tournament format. Do you think it's something that the LAN event should adjust to, as in being more similar to the way that they're used to playing, as in team events, cars off? Or do you think it's more the players or the team tournaments or the online tournaments that should adjust more to allow players to be able to transition easier to such events? As of course, we do see it in some cases, players who might be amazing online turn up to their first offline event and they're rather underwhelming. So what would you say about that?
Yeah, I've never played against Carzone, but if I am to look at a match and to look at, let's say, a match where I know that Kappa sees Carl Jr., Pac, Massa next to him, that will add the level of excitement to me as well, because now he knows where they are, he knows if he has to risk, he knows they are there, put more pressure. So it just tests how strong mentally they are, if they are to keep their heads cool, or if they get stressed out by having a player chasing them. And if I'm to pick, I would rather say that you can have these online events, where they can play with cars off. But if you are planning to attend to offline events, I understand that people try to test with cars on so they can actually prepare themselves somewhat. So it's up to each and everyone, but I would like to have the offline events being cars on, simply because then you know that there is some extra factor for pressure, and it's not only the fastest player that win, but also the one who is the most strong mentally.
Mm-hmm. So kind of getting the complete package, so to speak, out of the players.
Yeah, like not only because you always have the pressure. I mean, Kappa would probably have the pressure before the last round, even though we wouldn't see Pac and so on. But we all know how close that round was. It might not look exactly the same if they didn't know how close they were, and maybe Kappa wouldn't have risked or taken the same line just to overtake him, and instead of after he passed the finish, then you see, okay, I'm 1/10 or 500s behind. So yeah, it's just more thrilling to know that they know it, so sort of thing.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
Omnipods is actually raising a good point with the Carzone is unfair because of the camera you're using. A lot of time we've been talking about it's Cam 3, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Camera 3, the internal camera. When you are close to other players, you don't see them, and that's really unfair for the people playing with other cameras that have the other car on top of them, and
Mm-hmm.
that could be a fact. That could be a point that gets that actually mean that playing with Kazan is pretty unfair online.
Yeah.
Offline as well, but I think it's necessary. That's cool. That's good on offline, but I don't think online it would be that good.
Yeah, I mean it's a good point. I remember my first LAN event in 2000 and GA 2017. I remember having a discussion with Onyo about that, as Onyo had converted to Cam 3 for that event, and I remember he was telling me how it has its advantages in the terms of
Yeah.
when the players are close to you, you don't see them. So that again, you can isolate yourself a bit better, and it allows you to focus a little bit more. But in the same breath of that, is say you make a small mistake and then bam, there's a car right in your face.
Yeah.
If someone's ass in your face and you can't see where you're going, kind of thing. So it does kind of come with its negatives, but I can see certainly how it can be seen as unfair. It certainly has its arguments for it, and it's certainly actually a good thing to take into account with cars on. But again, I suppose it's hard to find a perfect system with the nature of cars being able to be turned on and off for tournaments and the different cameras people can use. I suppose that they'll never kind of be a perfect kind of thing to that. But of course, we are getting ourselves close to the hour mark for this podcast. Certainly won't be keeping yourselves much longer. But regarding kind of closing thoughts regarding the LAN events, I'll kind of I'll dial back your guys' memories a little bit. I'll ask you, not necessarily, we'll ask you a bit more of a casual kind of question here. NMD, what do LAN events mean to you? As in, what is your experiences for LAN events been for you? As in, is it just simply something you've enjoyed coming along for, you know, as along representing your own kind of content, so to speak? Kind of run me through how you feel about LAN events, at least as just personally experiencing them.
Okay, so I guess we can separate myself as a Trackmania fan and someone who actually provides some sort of content.
Exactly, yeah.
I said to myself, I want to go to, let's say, Giant Cup and the World Championship. I worked 6 days during the summer every week for like 3 months just to afford that. And the main plan was just to go to the World Championship, but then Giant Cup was also announced. And why not? It's Paris. I know some people there. I can catch up with them. And I would probably have went either way if I wasn't having this goal of providing content, but simply just to check it out and actually be at the place where you can meet people who have the same experience. But going to more events than just a guy who is fan of Trackmania, then I would pick just one event every year. And as I said, that probably is going to be the Cerisier Cup. It's biggest and it's probably the ones you feel experience enough. For me, because when you watch, like, I sat in the first row at the World Championship, but the viewing experience is still better when you sit at home. At least for me, I don't understand French, so the shout counting is more or less not understandable. The lucky thing is that Trackmania is pretty easy understandable. But then again, I don't go there just to watch it. I go there to provide content. I go there to try to help out Trackmania in sort of a way and actually talk with people. So that is why I enjoy going to events. I have now the opportunity to go to pretty much every offline event. And that is something I appreciate. And that is something I hope people appreciate, because now you can actually, let's see how Scottie feels after he's knocked out of Giant Cup and so on. And simply, what does Kappa feel just after he has won the World Championship, instead of having a podcast, let's say, a week after. So more or less, the main motivation for me is to go there to provide content rather to go there as a fan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, of course, I mean, you've kind of got the benefit of coming there for two different reasons, so to speak, which I guess you're in a kind of unique position of, since exactly as you said there, you're not necessarily a player. Of course, you go there to provide content and things like that. And of course, it's going there as a fan. But speaking of providing content, what can we expect from you in regards to LANs going forward? Are you going to be attending any of what we've discussed so far?
Yeah, I already have the tickets booked for Gaming Winterfest. I'm lucky enough to have the deals with the Sampi. I can write articles about all their games. Of course, Trackmania we know, but they also have NHL, they have Rocket League, they have FIFA. So I provide articles for them the whole year in those, and the payout is not salary, but rather support for offline events, because then I can go there and provide content for my own channel. So I will benefit probably more than just a salary itself. So I will go to Gaming Winterfest, I will go to Gamers Assembly, probably go to Cerisier Cup, probably go to the Grand League if this takes place. The only thing I'm unsure about at the moment is La Catalan. Depends, of course, if Team Sampi goes, and then I have to see if they want, let's say, see that as a benefit, if I won't pay myself, but I doubt it. So at least, let's say, 4 events, and now you have sort of a main platform where you can see event interviews and how people feel before, after, and during the event.
And just to add something, Mas told me a bit before that there might be an offline event organized by UB Team. I don't have much information, but it's probable to be in May, and with a 1,000 euro off price pool.
Oh,
So,
interesting.
Yeah, in Paris.
Probably be there as well then.
Yeah, there we
Yeah.
go. Sounds like another date in Paris for me and you, NMD.
But
Yeah, I don't have. Yeah,
go ahead.
sorry. I don't have much information, but it's supposed to be like this. I don't know.
But I guess, Scottie, you asked me a question here, and you have asked a question for about 1 hour now. And I have an easy answer, of course, because I don't have to take the decision myself. Should I use the money to go to Paris, or should I use my own money to go to another vacation? If I understand you correctly, you don't have this support from M&M. You have to sort of count the money. Is it worth it? Should I be the one paying it? So how many events will you attend, and how do you see this sort of discussion or decision you have to make?
Well, for me, it does come a lot into. Oh, I'm getting all uncomfortable now. I'm getting asked questions. Hold on. But yeah, I mean, I'm not going to lie. When I'm seeing all of these events, the first thing I'm thinking of is, "Fuck, can I actually afford this?" You know. And as I guess it is different, it is difficult as well for me to ask Eminem. Of course, I like to be a bit more independent in the sense of if they offer me support, as in I go into that team and they say, "Yeah, we'll support you this much for going to events, whatever." Sure, I'll take what's on the table. But if I can do that myself, I like to be able to be kind of financially independent, so to speak. I like to be able to live off of my own live off of what I can do myself, so that I'm not relying on other people. I'm not getting worried about, oh, am I going to get paid on time by them, or is everything going to go okay with that? So personally, that's something which is kind of taken into a big account with that. But I'm not going to lie. I mean, trying to go on 3 trips, basically paying for hotels, accommodation, tickets. I said hotels and accommodation, flights and accommodation. I meant tickets, and just the kind of logistical problem of bringing all my stuff over there. It's daunting. It's. I mean, I know that if I ask them, then there might be a possibility that I'll be able to get support, but whether I will or not, I suppose is something that remains to be seen. I know a lot of the M&M guys are planning on going to Gamers Assembly. So the way I look at it is, if I'm able to get support, fantastic. Then I may be able to afford to go to Gaming Winterfest, which I'm definitely going to. Gamers Assembly, which I'm definitely going to. If I can, I'll go to the Catalan if it's going to be worth it, basically. But I'd instead of me saying to Eminem, look, I need you to support me to go to Catalan, whereas say if they have a limited budget, they're going to be providing money to someone else in Eminem who may not be able to go to the event without that money, then I'll be happy to kind of sit one out, so to speak, as in I'll be happy to sit the Catalan out as much as I want a holiday in Barcelona, so to speak. But I'll be happy to sit that out, just if it means that we're going to be able to get a few people going, and at least someone's getting that support if it's not going to be me. So because I suppose I can cope with only 2 holidays in a month and a half. I'm not exactly living a high life, but I suppose that's a standard I can afford to live up to. But going forward, at least in May, I'd certainly be hope to be going to the UB team LAN if that does work out.
Yeah.
And throughout the rest of the year, I honestly have no idea. I'll see I'll see what the lay of the land is at the time. We'll see how much it's going to cost, if I can expect any support, and just kind of cross that bridge when we come to it, so to speak. But I'm planning ahead. I can only hope my plans are actually going to go well. I'm checking the forecast day and night for any signs of snowstorms. So we're being careful this time, guys, as well as any strikes in the French railway system. I've been thoroughly haunted by France and my experiences in going to France, but it doesn't stop me going back. But in terms of the reasons why it doesn't stop me going back, it's just simply for the kind of experience a LAN event gives you. I'd also kind of highlight to you guys, as it was mentioned, in the chat previously, if you do have any questions for the event, please, and for the podcast, give us a shout, because we are going to be rounding things off as we are coming past the hour mark here. We don't want to be keeping you guys past your bedtimes. I know it's late there, but but at least if I kind of look towards rounding things off, a question to you, Zad. You've been an attendee at events and for quite a good number of time here. Can I put a bit of responsibility on your shoulders? If you were to meet a Trackmania player that's not been to an event, how would you sell an event to them? As in, how would you say to them, this is why you should go to a Trackmania event?
The main reason is obviously because you can meet people, but I guess offline events also provides a lot of experience. Like, you gain a lot of experience, and you said before, like online events, you actually get better and better just because you can go at offline events, because of the level you're gonna see there. You're gonna play at your best, and obviously playing cards on will help you, even with cards off later on. It only has benefits, and because of this, I would say it is important to attend this kind of events. just to win experience, to meet people, to have great moments and memories. I guess that's what we are all looking for.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, memories and experiences for LAN events are some of, at least when I look back on the events I've been to, the memories I kind of treasure most, so to speak, as in, well, the times I've spent with the people there, not necessarily what I've actually done at those events. I mean, at least for me, my Gamers Assembly performance sticks out. But when I'm looking back to LAN events, I look back to 2017, all the fun I had when the night we spent with all the guys from the Dirt environment, when we went up and we had some drinks with them and things like that. But that's what I remember when I'm looking back at these events. I remember, say for example, Giants Cup, all the times I spent with NMD. Of course, we went out, we travelled a bit to Paris and things like that. Gamers Assembly 18 and Giants Cup, all the time I spent with, yourself, Zad, Omnipots, Mass, all the rest of the guys there. Big shout out to them, as of course they made my experience that much better by going there. It was certainly, of course, a pleasure to meet all of you when I was there, and I'm looking forward to doing it, of course, in future. But also something I would like to give a personal shout out to for. Can I use this podcast as my own weapon for that? So I'm sorry to no one for that. For Gamers Assembly 2018, my own LAN nightmare, a massive shout out to CC, who did put me up in his house without having ever met the guy before. I believe I spoke to him once before that. Put me up in his house, helped me out for the event when I was stuck in Paris. Couldn't go anywhere. As well to Massa and Spam for helping me out a lot on the way back, and Omnipots and the former ECOP guys for offering me a lift home when I was again stuck in Poitiers. So again, I believe it's a kind of good thing to round off with in regards to LAN events is the kind of environment that you get yourself into with a LAN event, the people you meet, the kind of how the Trackmania community kind of comes around each other. NMD, you'll remember it from Giants Cup. After that event, we all got together, we all went, had a meal, we all went and played bowling. Kronos won. He's now the god of bowling.
Yeah, the last time we won. I've been practicing pretty hard now.
Yeah, so we got a new bowling meister in the midst now.
Yeah, I got 175 points yesterday, so I'm training pretty hard.
Oh, so you're going to embarrass me once again, no doubt.
Once again. And then support you in the night.
I think you guys can agree with me in the sense that with Trackmania being, despite a bit of a small community, we have a great community around us that I'm sure you guys can also speak for. It's been a pleasure meeting up with at all these events, and it's been a pleasure spending times with, and it's certainly been for me. And again, I'll look forward to it in the future. But with any kind of final words you guys want to have on that? If not, I'll just leave yourselves to let the adoring public and the adoring masses know where they can find you. I'll start off with your lovely self, NMD.
Okay, so I guess I can talk a little bit about the point itself. You said going around in Paris and such. So I guess if there is a LAN in, let's say, Germany, I guess more people will actually go than people who have already attended events. They have the main motivation of going to an event and then also visiting France. Now I understand, let's say, people like Spam and Massa and such, they're pretty bored of just going to Paris, and it's more or less just going there to play, meet some people, and then go back home. So if you see offline events in another country, I guess that will put more people into going there because they also have the possibility, as you mentioned, about checking out the city. And for people who want to find me somewhere, Twitter, Huntmania, YouTube, Huntmania, Eirik Holdal, here and there. I guess I'm pretty easy to find if you want to find me. I'm not so small, so yeah, that's it.
And what about you, Zad? Any final words, or if not, where can we find the man Zad?
No, but I'm looking forward to meet more people in the next few events. I'm sure it's gonna be again really nice, and yeah, I think we are looking forward for a new era of Trackmania, a new events, new people, new organizations. I don't know, but yeah, you can find me in Twitter. Zad, I don't even remember my Twitter, but that's okay. I think it's on the screen.
Yeah. We've got Zad TM2 there if you want to find the man himself.
Thank you. Okay. And yeah, you can follow UB Team on Twitch. and Twitter as well if you want to. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it.
Mhm,
Are there
ex-
no questions from the chat? What a fucking boring chat.
Yeah, well, I mean, you can find Zad in the upcoming GA's grand final, so we'll be looking forward to that.
Yeah, we'll
But
be
yeah.
presenter.
Yeah, exactly.
Camera guy.
Pom
For-
pom girls.
For once, someone on stage will actually be able to speak French. But guys, it has been a pleasure for the second episode. If you guys do want to find me at all in future, of course, at TM Scotsman on pretty much every platform of which you care to look for me for. Can't guarantee I'll be active on all of them, but I'll certainly look at it every once, maybe in 2 weeks or something. But if you guys want to find out more about when we'll be doing our next events, our next podcasts, the social links, of course, for the Electronic Sports Arena Challengers, ESAC, are on top of your screen. Of course, on Twitch and YouTube, ESAC TV, Twitter and Facebook, ESA GG, if you want to check ourselves out again for a future contact which we're going to be providing as well. We do possibly have a new project we will be working on, so definitely guys, keep your eyes peeled, keep your ears open for what we will be looking to provide you as part of ESAC going forward. But that's it from me, guys. Check us out going forward if you want to see more. But again, thank you very much for sitting in and listening to us gab on a bit. I know it's been kind of eating late into your evenings, but it has been a pleasure, guys. Thank you very much for joining me. And I think I can join NMD and Zadin saying it's been a good podcast.
Yep.
No problem.
Thank you, guys. See you later.
Bye bye.